for you. This is the 23 News Update at 10.
A Rockford store that lived by the motto "Shop with Joy" is closed until further notice after an alleged attack at the store's entrance.
23 News reporter Jake Pearson travels to Valley Market, where the owner and neighboring community members say a fire was started around 11 Monday morning.
Valley Market is a Middle Eastern grocery store. When the fire started Monday, signs in Valley Market's window displayed a pro-Palestinian message, leading some to question if the attack was a hate crime.
He was doing something here, and one time fire, boom, like a big fire.
The words, "We will not surrender until liberation" and "Free Palestine" are put on display at Valley Market in Rockford. Words that some community members say triggered a hate crime.
When the people don't tolerate the truth, then this thing happens because, they have no other option except showing some violence.
At 10:49 Monday morning, Rockford Fire responds to a small structure fire call after an alleged attacker set fire to Valley Market's front entrance.
We didn't see the guy clear, whoever he was. We saw how he put the fire and start the fire.
When firefighters reached the scene, the fire had already been extinguished, leaving damage to the interior and exterior of the store. But Valley Market's owner says what really matters is the store's closure until further notice, leaving families who worked at the store without an income.
I have 4 children. I'm only one who work in the house, so this is my life. So he's trying to end my life, and my life and plus 5 at home.
The president of the Muslim Association of Greater Rockford says he thinks this was more than a random attack.
Just a fear and misinformation causing this kind of thing. So the most important thing, educate, present the data, present the reality, okay? And let the people decide.
The Rockford Fire Department is leading the investigation and have determined the fire was intentionally set, but it's unclear right now who set it.
Thank you, Jake. And Rockford Fire says they believe there's no danger to the public at this time, saying the incident was an isolated attack on Valley Market.